Three, two, one.
You have to stop allowing fear to dictate your movements, because when you are fearful of something, which everybody will be, because that's just a human thing. A human characteristic is to be afraid, because there are things out here that will make you afraid, but you can't allow the fear to stop you from overcoming. So you have to challenge that fear. Not saying that you won't ever be afraid, but you have to challenge the fear so that you can overcome.
Hey, Zaki, how you doing, bro? How's everything going?
I'm doing good, brother Joseph. Man, thank you for having me on your show.
I'm glad that you're here. I'm glad that you're here.
Yes, sir.
Just for those who do not know, we're going to start from the boots, which is symbolic of the journey one takes to get to where Zaki is, and to not only get there, but the mindset it is to not to maintain that and to scale from there. So we're going to talk about it all today. It's going to be a great conversation. And for us, we like to go from the very beginning. So could you talk about your early story, where you were born, raised, and then we're going to start going into your tech journey later on.
When it comes to my early story, I was born and raised in Richmond and graduated high school. And just a little bit about my background, I have always been a reader. I've always been someone who was interested in learning new things. So that's always been in my background. Reading, research. I was a huge fan. My favorite subjects in school was history and English. And the reason why I like those subjects the most is because history, which is so fascinating, with all of the different information that you would learn, obviously from times where you was not living or wasn't present. So that was very interesting to me on the history standpoint. And then on the English standpoint, I was fascinated by just reading comprehension, as well as being able to write stories and being able to express yourself and understanding the proper usage of the English language. So history and English were my two favorite subjects in school. But I also, getting into middle school and high school, got a little sidetracked and liked being around a lot of women. So that was one of the things that got me, had my education on the back burner, because I like to hang out and chill and do different things like that. But I'm a father, I am a husband, I'm a brother, and I enjoy being with my family. I'm a girl dad, so I have four daughters, and I enjoy being with my family. I enjoy knowledge and learning new things, but I also enjoy outdoor activities. So I love riding dirt bikes, horseback riding. I used to do dog training. So I have one dog now, but I had up to three dogs. But I've done dog training, professional dog training, where we got into advanced obedience, protection work, and all that kind of stuff. So I've done a lot of different things. So growing up in Virginia, being in Virginia for a while, being in the streets, doing things that I had no business doing, just moving around trying to find my way, got it. So then I decided, hey, let me go ahead and move and change scenery. And it will never forget the ideal, the epiphany that I had that made me willing, more than willing, to relocate. I was in a car one day and I was listening to the radio, and at this point in time, I always had an entrepreneurial bug. I always had that idea in my mindset. My grandfather always instilled in me, do for self, do something for yourself, start your own business. So I was always had an entrepreneurial mindset. So I had already started a couple of businesses. I had a power washing business back in 2000, and I believe it was 14 or 15. I started a power washing company. I had my own promotion and marketing company, and I had started off by promoting music, and then from graduated from promoting music to doing my own vlogs and having media, and I became a manager of an artist of mine, and I started to learn the music business. So I started to go onto college campuses and started promoting music there. Learned the college radio, copyrights, publishing, LLCs, ownership of music, all this different stuff. And I was going around the city. I was developing relationships by going to clubs on the weekend, getting my artist music played and things like that. And then that graduated into community work and community activism. So around 2016, this is when Donald Trump is coming into office. They're doing protests in the city. I'm a part of those different protests. I'm going to town hall meetings and all of these different things. I'm in a car one day, and I hear Ricky Smiley, listen to the Ricky Smiley Morning Show, and he's talking about his career, his journey, and how he's originally from Alabama, for people who don't know. And he was inspired to move to the DFW or to Dallas, Fort Worth area, because he had to put himself in an uncomfortable position in order for him to flourish. And he said that in order for him to become successful, he had to get out of his comfort zone. Obviously, being in your hometown, you in your comfort zone. You're around all your family and your friends. So you're extremely comfortable with the situation that you're in. And you just don't work as hard when you are in your comfort zone. And he said it wasn't until he got to the DFW and got out of his comfort zone is when he started to become successful and started to move and progress in his career as a comedian, as an actor, and an entertainer. So that right there resonated with me so well that I said, hey, I need to leave my comfort zone. I need to get out of my comfort zone. Yeah. So in 2017, when me and my wife got married, she always wanted to move to Georgia. So I said, let's go. If you want to move to Georgia, let's go, because I want to change the scenery anyway. So that's what we did. And it was really a leap of faith. I didn't have a job when I decided to move to Georgia. I didn't have anything lined up or didn't do any prior research how people do when they move to different cities and things like that. I had family that live in Georgia. I told my uncle what I was trying to do, and he said, come on. And we picked up and we moved to Georgia in 2017. And we've been in Georgia since 2017. So that's just a little bit about my background.
Hey there, thank you so much for watching this video. This video is actually sponsored by Course Careers. So whether you're interested in breaking in as a tech sales representative, if you're interested in actually doing IT or digital marketing, not only do they have free introductory courses for you right now, go to the description and check that out, but they also have $50 off that you could get through me, Joseph50. That's right, $50 off through Joseph50. So if you're interested in getting into that course, any which one, whether it's, again, tech sales, IT, or digital marketing, look no further. Go down to the description below, click on the link, and sign up right now. What are you waiting for? Wow, that's amazing, because there's a lot of similarities to your story from you growing up in Virginia. You mixed it up with the wrong crowd, and the fact that you had that revelation, like, hey, you know what, I need to change the scenery. It's such an important lesson to everybody, and that's where sometimes you might be. And I always love to say this Warren Buffett quote: if you ever find yourself in a chronologically leaking boat, energy devoted to changing vessels is far more probably easier and valuable than trying to patch leaks. So I'm definitely paraphrasing, but that's kind of the same thing. And so I really do see a very similar situation with you. You had to make that change. You had to do something drastic and change your situation. Now I'm going to go back a little bit because I'm a musician by trade back in the day. And so I'm curious, music promotion. Can you talk a little bit about how that was about your story? Like, how'd you get into that?
Absolutely. So the way I got into music promotion is, first, I was an artist. Me and my guys, we had been making music since middle school, and we had started recording on our laptops, and that we taught ourselves how to do like our own engineering. This is before we learned about how to use, what's the application on Apple?
GarageBand? Or you mean?
No, it's on Apple. It's an Apple. It's on it's not Adobe. That's a film editor.
Oh, it's on Logic?
Not Logic, the other one that most people use. I can't think of it on the top of my head. But before we started using the professional stuff like Logic and all of those.
Pro Tools, you mean?
Pro Tools. Thank you.
Okay, yeah.
Okay. So before we learned how to get on Pro Tools, we was using our laptops, and we was using whatever program that they had on there. Matter of fact, we was using Audacity.
Oh wow.
Yes, we was recording on Audacity, and we was learning how to do our own sound engineering on Audacity. And then from Audacity, we graduated up to Pro Tools. So again, we had been making music for a long time, and we really was making music. We had a couple of performances outside of the city. We performed in Norfolk. We had a performance in New York City at Baisley Park in Queens. We put together a whole mixtape, mix and master. This was in middle school. We was out of middle school by this time. This was more high school, or probably first year after graduating out of high school. But we put together a full mixtape, mixed and mastered and everything. It had it. I think it's still on DatPiff. We uploaded the DatPiff mixtape. So yeah, we was really making music. And the thing about it was, in Richmond, it's a small market for music. Richmond is not the 757 where Missy and Timberland and Rel
By the beach.
and exactly, and the Clips and all of them. Not where that's all 757, but just Richmond, Virginia is a small market for music for artists. It's more of a college town, and it's really ran by promoters and DJs. So they are the ones that kind of control, and the PDs at the radio station. So they're the ones who control the market for the music, and a lot of local artists aren't broke in the city. So they bring a lot of mainstream artists to the city, but they don't work with local artists to break them, to make them mainstream artists, to help make them mainstream artists. So the problem we was running into was that exact same problem. Obviously, we've seen other artists run into the same issue. We was like, we got to promote ourselves. So I was the most vocal in reference to that. So that's how my vlog started to come into play. That's how my YouTube channel got started, because I started vlogging. I originally started, I got a close friend of mine who is an artist as well, and he had made a lot more waves in Richmond on the music side than we had. So he was schooling us on stuff. He had relationships with PDs. He had relationships with the biggest DJs in the city and things like that, and all those different things. So he was helping us out with our visuals and all of those different things. And what he was asking me to do was to be his manager. So he was still making the music, but I was the one going out and promoting his music on his behalf. So I was going to the clubs. So that's how I was building relationships, because he was introducing me and was making those connections. So now they was starting to respect me, respecting the movement, because we were putting the visuals out and things like that. So I really was promoting his music as his manager, but then also at the same time started to create vlogs and different content on social media to help push the music. So that's how I got into music promotion, because it was something that some people wasn't really doing it in the city. You had a lot of party promotion, which I started in, and then segued into the music promotion, and then started to fuse them together, because I started hosting my own parties. And at my own parties, I would have my friends perform. We would perform our music, or I would have them. I could have the DJ play whatever music I wanted. So I was in total control of the music and being able to break the records at that point.
Oh wow. Yeah, you had a hand in a lot of different things. I could see so much of that being transferable into tech sales. That's like hands down, like a lot of the things you're talking about, promotion, being able to like basically sell your artists for shows and for different showcases and different things like that. Like you had to be like out there. And so that's actually real cool now to hear you talk about that side of it. I'm curious to find out in regards to your journey to good old ATL, right? Good old Georgia. Like that must have been a very trying time for you and for your wife to make that leap of faith with nothing to land. So can you talk a little bit more about how you were able to transition this? And the reason why I'm saying that is because there are people that are in a similar part of life where they're in the unknown and they're trying to figure out things. And they're like, hey, where should I go? Where should I live? What should I do as a job in this different economic climate that we're living in? Can you talk about your transition and what it is that it started to unveil as you start to go through that transition?
Yes, sir. One thing about me is that I don't really overthink things. And a lot of people, they overanalyze a lot of things before they do them. And what happens is that causes paralysis in their ability to try to make the move. So they have over-analysis paralysis, where they think over too many factors and they don't move out on anything. I don't necessarily have that problem. I do stuff and then think about it later. So we're going to do this and then we'll figure the rest out. We cross that bridge. Yeah. We'll cross that bridge when we get there. And that's how it was when we moved to Atlanta. I knew my wife would be able to secure her a job once she started putting in applications. So that wasn't an issue. For myself, I had got into the dog training business when I was in Richmond. Something I was doing on the side where I had trained my own dog. And then people had started asking me, because I would take him out in public and people would see how well trained he was, people would start asking me to train their dogs. So I was already down that path, and I happened to be following a brother on YouTube and on Instagram who had a company and was doing dog training. So when I decided to move to Atlanta, I reached out to him because he was in Atlanta. So I reached out to him and I asked him, was he looking for an apprenticeship? Was he hiring part-time? Anything that I could just get in the door and then work my way up, I was willing to do. So once I reached out to him and let him know what I was doing, made that connection, he told me to let him know when I got to Atlanta. That's kind of the path that I was on as far as finances and income when I decided I was going to move to Atlanta. So literally it was just about networking, making connections, and then following through on those connections and being willing to do whatever was necessary in order for me to make it work. And then also because when I moved to Georgia, I didn't move to the Atlanta area. I didn't move to the metro city of Atlanta. I actually was in Middle Georgia because that's where my uncle lives at, by the Air Force Base. So that's literally probably about an hour and 45 minutes from Metro Atlanta, and about an hour and 15 from Metro Atlanta. It's about an hour and 45 from where my man stay at with the dog training facility. So I didn't know any of that until I got down here, and then finally made the first drive to his house. It was like, dang, woo, but it's far, right? So I had to work all those different things out. But again, I'm always, once I set my mind to something, I'm always figuring out ways that I can accomplish it. That's just how my mind works. What can I do to make this work? How can I move this around? How can I do this? Can I slide this over here to make this work? What can I do in order to make it happen? And that's just how my mind works. So when it came to that, it was like, okay, me and him worked out a situation because he knew I was traveling so far. So he was like, hey, you don't have to come every day. Just come 3 times a week and I'll pay you, you know what I'm saying, gas money for your travel, as well as I'll have some different things around the house that you could do as far as work, so I could pay you something while you learn in the program. Because his thing was, I needed to teach you my program before you could start training dogs. Like, you have some experience, which is fine, but I need you to know how to train my program with my clients. So that was cool. But he said, I'm gonna give you some other work around here to do so that you can get paid. So you're not just coming up here and not getting paid and having to drive an hour and some change up here. So I'm thankful and grateful to him for that. So we worked that out. And then the other thing that I did in the process of that was I found a job that was near the house and started working overnight. So I started working overnight at a Kroger that was close by the house. And I was working that overnight. And then when I got off in the morning, then I would, on the 3 days, I would go up to my man's spot. His name of his company is World Class Canine. I would go up to his facility, and then I would do my thing up there and then come back. Because I was only up there for a couple hours because I had to get my daughters off them. So I would get off work at, I think I got off at 7. I would get off work at 7. I would take my wife to work, and then on my way dropping her off, then I'm shooting out there to East Atlanta to go up there those 3 days a week. And then I would leave from up there probably about 1. So I got there about 9:30, 10, and then I would leave around 1:30 so I could be back in Middle Georgia because I had to get my daughters off the bus around 2 something. So I can't remember the exact time, but I had to get them off the bus around 2 something. So I had to be back down in Middle Georgia in time to get them off the bus. And it used to be funny too because I didn't have it was always traffic coming back in that area. In the McDonough and Lovejoy area, it was always some traffic right there. So what I ended up doing, I ended up getting a whole bunch of tickets because I was going through the Georgia Peach Pass line trying to skip all the traffic. So I was just eating them tickets because I'm like, I can't be late. My daughter's got to get off the bus. So I don't have time to be stuck in traffic. So I'm just eating them joints because they just send them in the mail every time I'm going through Georgia Peach. I don't have no Peach Pass or nothing.
They're like, here you go, Brother Kim again.
Here we go again. Exactly. Here you go. Just send them the ticket.